How's it going, everybody? This is Wyatt, and you're listening to Garage Built Baits. And for today's episode, we got to talk with someone super cool, makes some really awesome baits, and that's Daniel of Top Banana Lures. And he showed us some really cool stuff in this episode, and got to talk about how he got into bait making, why he has since stopped bait making due to a variety of reasons, and talking about what's to come with Top Banana Lures and getting back into it. So I hope you enjoy the episode. And also, if you'd like, you can go check out the main YouTube channel, Buyer Lure Co. And we'll be doing some bait making over there, as well as hopefully weekly uploads of garage built baits on YouTube and on wherever you get your podcasts. So definitely check those out. There's also the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Anything that is donated is going to go back into the channel. So that could be giveaways, that could be upgrading equipment, and things of that nature. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, got the kids. They're playing on the deck right now. Put some pizzas in the oven for them. So pretty chill Friday. Probably play some video games or watch a movie or something. They'll
Sweet.
probably do one here at some point.
Yeah. What video games are you guys playing right now?
Just some old stuff. We got a Switch, so we just some Zelda, Mario Kart,
Oh heck
Breath
yeah,
of the
dude.
Wild. I'm a big fan. I like the Tears of the Kingdom.
Mhm. Do you assert your dominance over Mario Kart like no mercy? I'm in it to win it.
No, I kind of put it in like autopilot, so where they can just grab the controller and just kind of steers it for them. But
Oh.
my old days, back in the '64 days, like you know, it was all it was. We went out for blood, you know.
Mhm. Um.
We were taking shortcuts on Rainbow Road and stuff like that.
No, exactly, man. Like my my girlfriend and I, she was she'd always played Wii Mario Kart, and so she's used to like the actual like motion of like turning and whatever. But then when um I went back to my parents' place one time, and I hooked up the 64, and she played on that and just got destroyed. She'll destroy me on the Wii, but like on like the 64 or like a Super Nintendo, I'm all over it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I know. GoldenEye, all that good stuff.
Oh man, exactly. So why don't you go ahead, dude? Introduce yourself. Tell the people what you used to do, I guess.
Yeah, my name's Daniel Crader. I live here in Columbia, Missouri. I'm originally from South Louisiana, but I grew up on the water, fishing, hunting, all that great stuff. Did a lot of bass fishing when I was younger, mostly conventional related. But as I got a little bit older and started doing some woodworking. My dad's a carpenter, and so I kind of blended two of my passions together. Fishing and woodworking, and started making my own lures. Probably about it's going on about 6 or 7 years now. 6 or 7 years ago, it was the birth of Top Banana Lures. So that was my company. I still have interest in making baits. I've definitely taken a step back from bait making just because of family and just work related stuff. Um, I don't have the same shop that I used to, but I have the motivation to get back into it as soon as I can have a more designated area to start building baits. But I made all wood lures, all handmade wood lures, hand painted and cleared and everything. Everything from like basic top waters, like poppers, all the way out to your big jointed swim baits and glide baits and things of that nature. But yeah, I've made a lot of baits, caught a lot of fish, had other people catch a lot of fish on them. It's been quite a journey. Hopefully, I can pick it back up again at some point.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be really cool. Cause I was looking at your Instagram, and uh, it's been over a year since you posted, and I honestly, cause like I always see you pop up like with liking stuff or things like that, but I didn't realize that you weren't currently actively making baits and you had taken a step back. So when I reached out to you, I was like, and you're like, oh, I'm not currently making baits. I thought it'd be a unique episode to just kind of explore like your bait making, and then like you taking a step back because you know not a lot of people are just like full send right in it.
Right. Yeah, I'm like many people. I started making baits before COVID, but during the pandemic, I kind of used it as an opportunity because we all had a lot of time. And so at that point, I'm living in Missouri now, but I was living in Southwest Florida, just outside of Naples. And I had a little garage. We had a rental house, so I had all my tools, and I was on the water every day, and I just was making baits. I kind of got into the swim baits. I'm trying to think about what exactly got me into swim baits. Prior to prior to living in Florida, I lived in Mississippi for 6 years. I worked at the University of Southern Miss,
Hmm.
and that's when I started, making like the top waters and poppers and things like that. But I think I was just looking at some stuff online. Saw the big jointed baits, kind of got an interest in it, and then started making some big, broad bluegill glide baits. They
Hmm.
kind of swam all wonky. They made like a loud clunky noise, but that was kind of like my first step into making swim baits. And then when I got to Florida, I was posting things, some of my baits, and there was a guy out on the east side, around Broward County. Can't remember exactly where he was located, but anyway, he's got a little company. Kevin Hartman with Snook Snacks. He
Oh yeah,
reached out
yeah.
to me. Yeah, he reached out to me and said, "Would you be interested in making a mullet?" And I always wanted to make a mullet because I grew up on the salt water, and we fish with live mullets for big speckled trout and redfish and stuff like that. And so I made one. I actually brought it over here. I went to the shop. I got a little garage by my mother-in-law's. I could make baits over there, but it's just not the same. But this was the first mullet glide that I made. It's kind of squared, kind of 2x4-ish looking, but it swam, decent enough. I was fishing with it when I was in Florida. I had a couple of bass, followers. But we refined it, and we went through several different iterations. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the updates, but this is kind of like what it started to kind of look more like, more fish-like, more
Hmm.
streamlined. The tail broke off of this one, but we went through like 5 or 6 iterations, and we would call like G1, G2, and so like the last one that made it, that we made some and sold some, was like the G5 mullet, we called it, from Top Banana Lures by Snook Snacks.
Hmm.
And man, they caught some big fish on it. Kevin himself caught several like 40-inch snook, and they even put a couple of 100+ pound tarpon on them. So they were built to last, and they worked for what they needed to. But the wood in the salt water, eventually those toothy critters will cut through that clear coat, and once that water gets in that wood, it expands and absorbs, and affects the sink rate and everything. So you really need like a resin bait for salt water. If you want something to last,
Hmm.
I think resin's where it's at, because you can always repaint the resin and stuff like that.
Oh, for
But
sure. Yeah, and I see some of those guys like Snook Snacks, Canal Cowboy, some of those guys like
yeah, that's Kevin, Canal Cowboy.
yeah, yeah, like throwing like there's some other dudes that I follow like throwing a 250 or throwing some Savage Gear glides, stuff like that for those huge like snook and tarpon and even redfish will take a big glide.
Yeah, yeah. I think they were the first to kind of put the bigger swim baits on some of the saltwater fish, at least like in the South Gulf Coast region, Atlantic side. But I know there's some people out in Cali that throw some big baits on, different stuff out there. You mentioned like redfish and all. There's a guy on South Louisiana. His name is Mike Herman, with Donkey Bay swim baits. He makes a lot of like smaller coastal type stuff, and he's been doing that for years. Actually, he kind of inspired me to get into. I was trying to think what got me into glide baits. I think he was the one that I saw him making some glides and catching on them, posting them on some Facebook, coastal stuff, and I was like, yeah, let me try some of that. But he's a cool dude too.
No, that's epic, man. And like I don't know, just like the whole saltwater game is totally different. Like my girlfriend and I, we lived down in Florida, down in Central Florida, for a couple of years. Didn't get to fish as much as I wanted, but just being down there and when you are fishing, it's kind of cliche, but everybody says it. It's like you have that opportunity to catch just a giant bass, or if you're on those coastal canals, you can literally catch anything. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's not easy. You still got to put in the work, but you're gonna have a lot more opportunities. Your 5 pounders are kind of the cream of the crop there, but you can get on some 8, 9, 10 pounders. I ended up sticking, my first 10 down there in Florida. Not on one of my baits, but another hand bait mate, guy out in California, Gene Yoon, makes unique baits.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ever heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would tear it up at night on his little. He had his little regular Scout. It was called. Actually, I think I got one down here. This was my favorite bait to throw when I was there. In this particular color, it was his grape Scout.
Oh man,
This
that's
little
like the
open, little top
perfect.
pour.
Yeah, it's like
That
the perfect Florida color because of the water clarity.
that stained water. A dark profile provides good contrast. He always recommended hooking an 8/0 beast on there with just a regular 8/0. I forgot what the weight was, maybe 3/8 ounce or something like that. But I ended up putting like a 5/0 beast, which is really small, but it helped to conceal the hook, and I had to bend the tip out, quite a bit, and I got more bites that way. I think because it was a little bit lighter, it worked through the grass a little bit better. When those big ones would bite onto it, they would hang onto it longer. They don't feel that hook in the mouth, and I was able to get some good hook sets, some good deep, back at the top of the mouth hook sets on them.
Heck
Good
yeah,
stuff.
man. Do you have a Do you have any gator stories while you're down there fishing?
Oh man, how many you want to hear?
Dude, I got a
I got a
couple.
couple. I got a couple loaded up. Yeah, speaking of the big bass, my 10 pounder, it was just I didn't realize. I knew there was big bass in Florida, but I didn't realize how big they were in the close proximity of where I was living, because there were little lakes and ponds and little canals everywhere. So you can literally just pond hop all day for like a month and be in like a new body of water every time. But I saw some people posting, around the local college there, Ave Maria University. I was actually working there. Here comes one of my boys. But anyway, I'm gonna say hi, Cypress. Yeah, go see Mama. She got some pizza in the oven, buddy. Go see. But anyway, they were posting like some big catches. I was like, oh, they do have some big ones here, and I started, going and working the banks and stuff. Getting a couple hookups, missed a couple, and then I got on a few 6 to 7 pounders, and I thought that was a big fish. Being from South Louisiana. But then I saw some big bass one day on this one little corner of this canal, and I was like, I want to catch them. They looked like little torpedoes in the water. They were so big, and they were cruising, crushing on like tilapia and stuff like that. I was like, I'm gonna catch some of these. But I didn't have much success during the day, and so I just started night fishing. And then I got crazy with night fishing. I was going out like every night, staying out till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I was just obsessed. And just one night, I just connected with it, and I ended up hooking that big fish. But going back to the gator, they were ever present, the gators. So I'd always have my little light. I'd have to shine it real quick before I go and walk down to the spot, see if there were any eyes. You can always tell how big they were by how wide the eyes were apart. And they had one that was off the distance, but I pulled this fish up and made a lot of splash. Getting my pictures and everything. And then I'm going to release it, and this gator's like making a beeline for me and the fish. And I didn't want this fish to get eaten, and I don't want to get eaten. So I just took my rod and started smacking it on the head in the water, and it like thrashed a little bit and turned around. I don't know, man. I was just like, I guess I'll get eaten for this fish. And that was one crazy story. Another one, I was fishing with a wake bait one night. It was I'm trying to remember what wake bait. It was my buddy Doug Livingston from Gator Dog Customs. He stopped making baits. He ended up selling his company, but he had one of his gill wakes, and I was reeling it in, and something exploded on it, like right at the bank, and I went to set the hook, and it was just felt like I was hooked on a rock or something like that. I looked down, and I kid you not, it was like a 14-foot gator, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. So I just kind of like let off on it. I was like, it's either gonna break my line or swim off with the bait. So I let off on it, and ended up just like throwing the bait back. But the bait had like little holes all through it, but it was still functional. And I actually just sent it back to Doug. I was like, here, have your bait back. And so he's got a little story. Gator Dog, you know, lived up to his name in terms of the gator weight.
That's funny. I always liked fishing this one lake where around where I was at. And I'd always talk to the old timers fishing there, and this one guy he was like, "Oh yeah, 14 pounder caught out of here last year," and I was like, "Holy
Hmm.
smokes!" So I always liked going there. Really tough fishing, and I had a I had a gator blow up on my hollow body frog, and
Hmm.
just like a little baby gator. And I was asking this guy, I was like, and I almost swung into it, and or I did swing into it and I missed. And I was about to pitch back in there, and I see the little baby gator just peeking up through the lily pads, and I was
Oh
just
yeah.
like, "Holy smokes!" And I was talking to the old timer there, and he was like, "I was like, what would I do if I caught one of like if I caught a gator? Because I'm from the Midwest, like we don't deal with this bullshit."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Just unhook it and throw it back." And I'm like, dude, you got to be kidding me. I'll probably just cut it off and get another $5 frog.
Yeah. You gotta be a little strategic with it, but if you get them on the back of the head and you can hold them, the little ones,
Mm-hmm.
they'll swing around a little bit, but you can control their mouth. Not like grabbing a shark or something where they can reach back and grab you. But yeah, I had several would blow up. My fishing at night, doing top water, they blow up around pads and stuff like that. And I think be a bass, it'd be like a small gator. They sneak up on you.
Yeah, I've had that happen several times, and one of the one of the little city ponds I was fishing one time, we had this gator we were fishing, we had this gator just coming hot just right towards us on the bank, and we were like, what the heck? But it must have been one of those things where people catch fish and, like you were saying, you let it go, and cause of that commotion, and you let it go, and they just pick those bass off. And
Yeah.
so I was paying attention to that gator, and I cast my lure right into a tree and break it off. As
Oh yeah. Done
yeah,
that
I
many
made a
times. Some of my handmade baits too. It's not a good feeling.
yeah, because it was this cool little square bill that I made, and then I painted it like Pikachu. So it was pretty sweet.
Yeah. Go ahead, buddy. He likes Pikachu, Pokemon.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'll show you later. Go ahead. Pizza. Yeah, man.
So you so like some of your baits that have gone out to some cool people, like because I went and was rewatching Trevor Spice Camp Fish. I was rewatching one of
Oh
his
yeah, yeah.
Arsenal videos, and I know he has like one of your gills, and then I think he has one of your rat wakes as well. I think the big 3 piece one.
Yeah, I call that the Wrigley's rat.
Mm-hmm.
And Wrigley's was a play on a. I used during the summers I used to spend them with my grandpa out in South Louisiana, just south of New Orleans on Lake Pontchartrain. They had this area called the Wrigley's. That was like a little island, not too far from the Gulf, but yeah, just I remember growing up, the locals there, me and my buddy Eddie, little Eddie, we call him. We'd be out in the boats all the time, just cutting up, and they would always call us, "Oh, y'all a bunch of little Wrigley's rats, y'all." Cause commotion, fishing, doing all kinds of stuff. So that's why I kind of got the name for it, Wrigley's rat. I actually got one of those here. This is the first Wrigley's rat, so this is nothing fancy. But I just took a piece of plywood and just made a little three-piece rat. I definitely refined them over the years, but catch a lot of fish on this one. This one in particular, I've caught a lot of fish on. They got a guy out in North Carolina. Get his name, Carolina region. Uh, Tony. He's got a like TG Customs or something like that, or TM Customs. I forgot his last name, but I sent him one and one of his boys one, and he's been putting some big bass on them. I believe in the fall or maybe the spring. Some 6, 7 pounders. But yeah, I sent one to the Spice. I think he got one of my first iterations, and he put some fish on them. A couple of decent bass for Denver, Colorado area,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And then he got like one of my first gill glides too, and he put some decent bass on it. Big broad gill. Like I told you, like some of my first glides I made, but I ended up making some more refined ones that were big profile, and They have a lot of drawing power. And that's one thing with glide baits and those big glide baits. You might not always get bites all the time, but it would always be a good like beacon to see what's in your area. If the fish are on and they're looking and they're searching, you'd always get some follows back on those big glides.
Yeah, exactly. And then if they don't commit to something that big, you can always like throw something else as a
Yeah,
follow up, try to trigger a bite out of it. I think a lot of Japanese guys do that too because they fish with some of those really huge glides
right.
and kind of use it like you said like a locator almost.
Yeah, yeah. Me and there's a guy that still lives in that area that I used to fish in Florida. His name's Dan Piedra, but he's got a little page called the Village Angler. You should check him out. He catches some pretty nice fish too. But we used to do that. I'd come like the big swim baits. He threw them every now and then too, but he did a lot of conventional, and we kind of go back and forth to see what they were biting on. Funny story about Dan. He would always be out fishing during the day. He kind of worked from home during COVID, so I was working at university. He called me up. He's like, the big girls are running right now, man." And so as soon as I get like a break, I'd go meet him out at the canal and throw my glide. I used to throw this. I got it right here. It's all Storm Arashi.
Hmm.
Seen those before. Um, he'd like call the shots like Babe Ruth. He's like, "There's one over there. Throw it up, 7 pounder." A couple casts later, another 5 pounder. So when they were hitting hard. But yeah, if they weren't hitting the glide, he'd like go throw like a crawl, a little swim crawl or something like that, and we'd do a little tag teaming on them sometimes when they were running in little wolf packs.
Oh, that's sweet, dude. And with your rat wake, those are made out of redwood, right? Or did you? What's kind of did you do with those?
Yeah, different stuff. I make a lot of stuff out of cypress. I've got kind of a couple of cutouts here. So I show you that one that was just made out of like a pine 2x4. But here's one that I didn't finish. It's made out of some sinker cypress wood.
Hmm.
See, this is kind of what it looks like, kind of in its raw form. See, it's got the nice grain. So
Hmm.
on wood like this, I wouldn't paint it all the way through, so I'd leave some wood grain kind of on the sides to just kind of show off some of the features. And then from that, it would progress to something like this. This one's all done. I just need to paint it. It's got a nice loud clap. You can hear that. And yeah, I've made it out of cypress. I made it out of cedar. Redwood's really good. It's like a soft wood. It's good for carving. Nice and buoyant. Seal it good. And a lot of these woods are rot resistant. So even if they do take on water, they're not gonna like split or like get like mildew or anything like that. They'll last forever if you take good care of them.
Hmm. Yeah, like wood baits are just a totally different animal, especially when you're dealing with big swim baits. You really got to pay attention because yeah, you don't want them swelling up and then all your paint's falling
Yeah.
off, your clear coat.
Yeah, you can't leave them like on your rod and just leave it in your car in like hot, humid days because a little bit of moisture that gets under there, it gets underneath that clear coat and starts making bubbles that'll separate the clear and all that. You don't get that with the resin, of course, but yeah, it's a different type of feel. It's a heavier bait. Like it. Different type of sound when the joints clock together as compared to resin. And
Hmm.
I think everybody should have a couple wood baits in their arsenal.
Oh, for sure. Like one of the first bass that I caught down in Florida was on a rat wake bait that I made just out of basswood. It's one of the first bigger baits that I made. What's up, dude?
Yeah, so I caught some bass in Florida. Remember those big bass we used to catch?
Yeah.
Got a couple. I'll share a couple of videos from my
What's that?
yeah Pikachu.
What's that,
Oh
Johnny?
yeah, I have all my baits. I kind of just
What's that?
depending on what we talk about. Speaking of rats, this was like a big rat I made one time.
Holy
You keep
smokes,
seeing it.
dude.
It's a 4 piece. I made only one. It's supposed to resemble a nutria. Some
Yeah.
people think it's a beaver. I even like painted the teeth of it. All funky. I even got like a little fur detail on it. This one's made out of pine. I don't know why I made it. I just wanted to make something real big and obnoxious. It was fun
Yeah.
making it, but I just hadn't fully finished it. I need to clear it still.
So did you
Come on.
pour that tail as well?
No, this is actually we call it like a Ron Z saltwater tail.
Uh huh.
Like a saltwater jigging tail, so you can get different sizes. Doug Livingston kind of told me about that because he used to put them on his little rats, his little El Raton or something like that. He used to call them. But yeah, it's just a big one. I've got like I took some, what do you call it? Some of that stainless steel wire and kind of twisted it and just made like a little stem for it with some glue and put it on there. So musky bait or something like that.
Oh, dude, that's one of the big rats for a tuna or something, man.
Yeah. I think this is probably the biggest rat on the market. I don't know. Let me know if you find something bigger. It's over
Dude,
a pound.
yeah, I've never seen anything that big. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, look at the bill on it. I had to do like a custom plexiglass bill. Compared to my hand. You need a big rod.
Yeah.
I tried using my swim bait rod. I had to be very gentle with it so I didn't snap it in half on the cast. But I was able to get the wake and stuff. It did just what it was supposed to do.
Well, I would have just like opened up my bail and just like chuck it out there.
Yeah. You need like an offshore jigging stick. I don't know. I don't even think like some of the big heavy rods. Maybe like low down custom or something. I'm sure somebody's got some swim bait rods that are heavy enough. Those musky guys, they throw big heavy baits. So
Yeah, my
rods that are big enough.
yeah, my cousin and her husband, they're well with their kid, they don't go out as well. They have a couple kids now, but they don't go out as much. But they used to be huge into muskie fishing up where they live in Minnesota, and I don't know. I spent like a half day out on the water walleye fishing with him, and it's like you're kind of too serious. Like you're
Yeah.
not you're not making this fun. And
Yeah.
it was
And
cold and miserable too.
yeah, musky fishing, it's like a big waiting game. But then when they do appear, you see them like doing figure eights right by the boat, and they come up and just destroy it, start taking out drag and stuff. I'd
Mhm.
like to catch a muskie. In Louisiana, we used to catch these big garfish, these big alligator gar.
Mhm.
Florida too, but caught some big ones in Louisiana. I had a couple of them that were like 7, 8 foot long. And imagine that'd probably be what a muskie's like. Although I think a muskie is a little bit more agile. Big gator gar was always just like a big thrashing log. It put up a fight, but it was like it never ran like a redfish or like a jackfish or something like that. It was just kind of you got enough leader to not cut your line and heavy enough line, you can get them in. Not too much
Mhm.
fuss. Once you get them on the deck, it's another story.
Yeah, like we uh we have northern pike up here in the Midwest, and there's been some people catching some big ones here with it getting a little bit colder. I seen a picture of a of this guy who was fishing the lake down the road. He pulled a I don't know had to be like 35 to 40 inch pike.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll have to get out. I was throwing a glide bait last month and at this different lake that also has massive pike in it and has big bass. And I was throwing that a 9 inch glide bait, one of those 6 cent straws,
Mm-hmm.
and then I painted it up as a rainbow trout pattern because we have a lot of trout up here, and had this like was doing long, slow glides, and I had this big blow up on top water, and it was like a 16 inch pike,
Oh,
just a tiny one.
yeah. That draw would kind of air more towards the surface. Is that right? Or would
Yeah, it's like a slow float.
yeah, like a low float. Like it come back to the surface, but when you glide in, it would go subsurface.
Yeah, it like dives a little. Like if you
Right.
fish it pretty fast, um, it dives a little bit, and you can adjust it to where it sinks a little heavier. Um, but yeah, just um, just a low float, and so I was doing long, slow, wide glides with it, and just
Yeah.
that little pike just t-boned it. It was crazy. I was so excited. I was like, because that's a fairly good sized bait, and just caused all this commotion hitting it, and then it's not the quite the caliber of fish that I want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good approach. If you're kind of unsure what's out there, just like the wide glides, if they're hitting pretty good, you can get more, more choppy with it, as they would say. And then if you got clear water, you can see your bait. You can start with wide glides and then kind of tease them a little bit to get some followers, and you chop, chop, pause, and you can usually get them to react and take
Mm-hmm.
a swipe at it. And a lot of times I just would hook them in the side of the face because they're just swiping at it. Kind of irritate them enough.
Mm-hmm.
They make a pass at it.
Um, with you living in Florida and you making your baits, do you think that influenced how big your baits are just because of that caliber of fish down there? Because your baits are pretty good size. They're fairly large.
Yeah, I mean, fishing in Florida is what got me into like fishing big baits. I started making big baits before then, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really have much of a clue. I didn't really know much about this one bait scene. Once I started making it and fishing it, of course, then I started going on YouTube and looking up Mike Gilbert's videos, and in California, and I'm like, oh yeah, man. And Butch Brown, of course, all his
Mm-hmm.
old stuff. And then I got real into throwing the big baits. And that Storm Arashi, this is like the one and only Storm Arashi I got, and this is the first one I got. I still have it, fortunately. But I've caught a lot of fish on it. But when I first started throwing it, I didn't really know what to do. I just kind of threw it and reeled it. But then
Mm-hmm.
you start kind of seeing how the fish react. Kind of checking out their mannerisms, their posture, and then you start patterning them different times in the month. Different times of the day they would do different things, and spent a lot of time in the water. It's COVID, didn't have a whole lot to do, so I really spent some dedicated time kind of studying these fish and how they responded, at least for the Florida area, to these bigger baits. And I think the area I was fishing, no one was fishing with big baits before, so this was a completely new presentation for them, and I had a lot of success. When I talk to the people there now, they say that fishing has definitely slowed down. There's a lot of people fishing there. Just with social media and Fishbrain and all these things, people have definitely kind of blown up that area. So it gets trafficked quite a bit. But I don't ever see anybody throwing big baits. So if I ever go back there fishing again, I'm just gonna bring back my old reliables, my Scout, and my Rashi, and maybe like a wake bait, one of my wake baits or something.
Mm-hmm.
Clear it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely one of your rats. Like I don't know. There's just I've gotten my rat hung up a little bit on lily pads, but luckily I was throwing some heavy braid. But dude, just swimming that rat next to reeds and lily pads, it was it was epic. Whenever you'd get a bite.
Yeah, the rat. Florida actually inspired me to build a rat. You would think it'd be more like a northern and Midwest type thing, but when fishing the banks, they would have like these little Florida rats. They were called. Like just little mice. They would jump in the water and kind of swim around, come back to the bank. And several occasions, I see this big bass would blow up on them. And so I started working on like a little two-piece rat. I called it the little Sugarfoot, um, and went through a couple different iterations and sizes. I didn't catch much in Florida because I didn't fish it much because I'd always have a gator chasing it down. Anytime I throw some top water, them gators be right on it. Throwing for wake baits, and I'm throwing the UFO crappie because I could get it like a little subsurface and still make a little wake. But you can kind of rip those things through the water pretty fast, like a chatterbait, and get some good reaction bites. And that's all I did for top water because it just wasn't worth it throwing anything else because the gators be all over it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, a lot of what I threw down in Florida. So I threw my rat wake a little bit, but then mainly it was like worms and a hollow body frog. It's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
what I threw down there.
Yeah, I got several of those. Those lunker launch pad whatever frogs that are, all the paint's all like worn off them. It's just like they're white now, basically like little paint specks. From so many lily encounters with big bass. Nothing real big. I caught like some five, maybe a six was my biggest on a frog, but I caught a lot. Definitely put some numbers on
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't. I was working so much when I lived down there that didn't really have a whole lot of time to go fishing, and I wish we would have done more saltwater fishing.
them. Yeah,
I don't know. Whenever we'd go to like the beach or anything, it was strictly like we're beaching. We're not really
yeah.
fishing.
I tried doing. I mean, I saltwater fish. Me and one of my coworkers, we would get the kayaks and We go out to like Estero Bay and stuff like that, and we go and target like mangrove snapper because we were trying to catch a limit to eat. And I started throwing some swim baits, but we were only there for about 15 months. Had I been there longer, I think I would have linked up with Canal Cowboy, and I would have ended up throwing some bigger baits on that end and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of a nuance. Go out on the beach, people surf fishing, throw a big glide bait when you got like some snook running and stuff like that. That'd be really fun to catch off the beach. Throw some
Hmm.
big baits off the beach.
Yeah, especially if you're fishing during like the mullet run or something like that,
Yeah,
where just all those big fish are fired up.
they got a mullet run, a glass minnow run. I think they got a
Hmm.
crab run. They got all these different seasons for all these bait fish, and the snook are always there blowing them up. Speaking of crab, I did take a stab at making a crab wake. I don't have a finished one, but I do have a couple of little blanks that I worked on. This one's made out of some cedar wood, but I basically just did like a kind of looked like a turtle almost the way I kind of designed the wake and I sent it to a guy that he put a snook on it. It was funny. He sent a picture of snook. It was so wide. It was a smaller snook, but it was just like stuck in its mouth like a burger. Um, so they like crab apparently. The snook. I never caught one, believe it or not.
Yeah, I've never caught a snook or a tarpon. They're on the bucket list. Eventually, that'll get crossed off. But it's a crab wake. That's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
funny, dude.
yeah. I don't think anyone else has made one, so the idea is still there. If someone wants to jump on it, if not, when I get back, I'm gonna definitely jump back on it.
So like for the legs or the pinchers, like did you do anything for that, or is it straight up just like the body shape and the color?
I played around with it. The more stuff you have hanging off of it, the more it impacts the swim.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to play around with like the flippers and put like little like Colorado spinner blades on there and different things. And at the end of the day, I think I just went with the just paint some detail for legs. Like I said, I don't have a one on me, but I just kind of painted some detail in there. But the action was there, and I think a couple of them I had put like some jig skirt material out the back just to make it look like the legs and the claw kind of trailing, just to give it that illusion. And they swam well. I had a guy that I was working with. What was it? The Volk custom that does all the bills and everything. He helped me generate this, blank right here, through CNC, and that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna work on a CNC blank and then cast a resin mold and then start playing around with it and trying to fine tune it. And that's where I kind of my journey with bait making ended because we were living in this one apartment and I had a garage right next to our apartment, so I was able to go there every night and do stuff. Now where we're living, I don't have a garage. The only garage I have is at my mother-in-law, so I got all my stuff in storage right there. So we've just been waiting for the right time to get a house or get another place that's more conducive to making baits.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. But one of the wakes that you've made that's pretty cool is one of the frog wakes that you made, and then you got like
Oh
the
yeah,
silicone skirting coming off the
yeah,
back.
yeah. I was just playing around with it. I had like a top water bait, like a profile. I called it my surface walker, and I ended up taking like that blank and just kind of cut it like a wake and just put a bill on it and was playing around with it. But I got the idea from Pete from Reckless Rodents. He's
Mm-hmm.
got his little EC ribbit, it's called, and it ended up looking very similar to that. The main difference is mine, he does a wood one too. The profile was a little different, but I did put in like a little lead bearing in there, a little bearing, make like a little rattle, and so you can do that with the wood. And yeah, it was good bait. Caught a few fish on it, but I never really got to streamline that into something like I wanted to like make and sell. I kind of did it more as like a novelty and made a few for some friends, and that was it. But yeah, frog profiles, those are just as good as rats and everything like that.
Oh, for sure. Like out here where I am, I don't really see. I'll see like little mice and stuff on the bank and whatnot, but it's definitely see and hear a lot more frogs. And
Yeah,
same with some of the areas I was at in Florida. I've seen a lot more frogs.
yeah. Here in Missouri, I'm actually caught with my rats. I got different ones I fish with. As far as like a rat that I've caught like the most fish on was this little one piece I made.
Mm-hmm.
I painted this one to look like a dead bluegill because we had like a little fish kill off on one of our lakes, and then on the side of the bank, I just took pictures of the dead gills, and I was like, let me just paint a rat it. But I don't think that makes a difference. But it's a little more violent in the water. It moves water a little bit bigger because you don't have the joint that kind of breaks the action any.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught a lot of fish on this, probably well over 100 fish a few years ago. Little ones, up to like maybe a 3 or 4 pounder might have been my biggest one. But yeah, just the reaction bites on it, and it walks really well, like as a top water. So one piece rats are great, kind of versatile bait that you can do like some walk in kind of still dead stick type stuff, and then you can also move it and get it to wake and push some water too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even like your little bait just has, I don't know, it's just see, it's like real chunky, like got like a good profile to it.
Yeah,
So
I
definitely
like the
puts
chunky
out,
bait.
yeah.
Always damn chunky. I got a little inspiration from a guy out in Sarasota. He's got Glunkum Lures, Jake Glunk. I don't know if you
Okay.
ever heard of him. Yeah, I got one of his gills here. But he always kind of had like a more squared profile bait, kind of chunky. And I don't know, I was inspired by it, and I started kind of making my baits a little more chunky looking, and they work. They're great for moving water, like for wake baits.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I know it's not very lifelike, but you're basically just trying to create a disturbance to get a reaction. Um, so you can make anything. You probably just take a little rectangle block of wood and cut a joint in it, and you'd still catch fish, right? So people don't realize you can throw anything out there, they'll catch. But it's nice to catch something that's handmade and polished up and everything. And I'm sure it makes a difference in like clear water and stuff like that. But, yeah, when they're hitting, they're hitting. You can throw anything at them.
Yeah, one of the first baits that I made and caught a fish on, I caught a pike on it, but made like a, basically just grabbed a stick in the backyard that was all dried out when I was when I was in school, and I carved it up and I threw some hooks on it and rattle canned like a red craw pattern on it, and I made
Mm-hmm.
this bigger jerk bait, and I caught a pike on it, but I kind of, so what got me hooked. And looking back, it's like, oh, the thing is ugly. The thing is garbage looking.
Yeah, some of my best rats, I mean, and stuff that I made were all spray can. Just a quick blast on the top, a little white on the bottom, a little black on the top, white on the bottom, and I let the wood grain kind of show on the side. And it
Mm-hmm.
had a really cool look to it. I really liked it. I was like, people are like, oh, that's just cutting corners. I was like, whatever, dude. I'm just making it for fun. I did
No, I
sell a few, but
yeah,
you know,
no, I really
ineffective approach.
yeah, I really like the look though and the simplicity of when you do that, where you let just like the natural wood grains like show through. I think it looks sweet. Just doing white belly and then like a darker top, or
Hmm.
maybe a
Yeah,
more vibrant top if you have, you want to have almost like a tracer where you can see it a little better.
yeah. I kind of have a bait here. This was another kind of big bait that I made. I made this wake series called the Chugs,
Mm-hmm.
the Mama Chug and the Papa Chug. This was a Papa Chug. It's like a bigger one. So this one's made out of mahogany, but the bottom's kind of like a white silverish, and then the top, it's just some scale pattern. But if you can kind of see on the sides here a little bit, you can pick up that wood grain a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I threw a couple of specks in there. I think I carved it originally to make a mullet, and then I did like a trout type pattern on it. But I got a little Lexane tail. I was kind of inspired by what do you call it? The G3 shell
I
cracker
found this.
baits.
It's
Mm-hmm.
from the shop.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah,
When I was a little kid,
yeah. I'm gonna come talk to y'all in a minute.
give me it back.
Okay. Go give that to
I
mama.
got this in the shop.
Go give that to mama. You found my Swiss Army knife. Yeah. But yeah, these the little tails, I've got it kind of got it, to where it articulates a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
so it adds a little extra clack. And yeah, I've had a lot of success on baits like these. This one's pretty big. I didn't make too many of those. But yeah, it's got that wood grain coming through on the side. Here's another one. I did like a little rat type one piece. This one's made out of that redwood.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of see. I did a couple of like paintbrush fur type strokes on it. It's got that built-in rattle. Yeah, a little rat tail on it. Just threw a little worm tail. Yeah, it's fun, man. When you make with wood, when you make a mold for resin, you kind of got that. You're married to that mold, so you make another one with wood. You can just change your ideas on the fly. Always fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like you said, you're kind of like when you make a mold, you're kind of married to that. So I have this because Florida swim bait. What's his name? I think it's Florida swim baiter. He made you that big banana walking
Oh
bait.
yeah, Dave, Dave. He passed away not too long ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Holy
He
smokes!
uh he had I believe he had a heart attack and he died of some complications due to it. Don't quote me on that. But I remember on Swimbait Universe someone came on and had posted something. And him and I got in touch, a few years ago and he's kind of an OG with baits. He's been making them a long time. He does all kinds of cool stuff and wood baits. Another big inspirer and I made a couple baits for him. He sent some to me, and that was one of them that he made. And I still have it. I don't even fish it anymore because I don't want to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one time, but it's looks like a Chiquita banana. It's got like the little emblem, but it says Top Banana Lures on it. So he
Mm-hmm.
did all that. I didn't ask him. He just did it out of the kindness of his heart. And yeah, they should put all his baits in like some kind of museum or something.
He
That'd be
just like
incredible.
yeah, his baits were really really cool. Oh, I didn't even know that. Freaking makes me sad, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Look it up there on one of the threads on Universe. I know he was on a couple of the Swimbait Underground forums. Yeah, got the other one here, the little one. He found my little pocket knife. This is actually my grandfather's pocket knife. He passed away many years ago. I didn't even know where this thing was. I don't even know where he found it.
You know, kids will just
Speaking of
find anything.
this one, man, he's just like a little. Just picks up little things on the ground. Where'd you find that?
I always
But yeah, man.
I always make fun of uh my girlfriend because we'll be out hiking and I'll be like, she's like, hey, can you carry my back, like my backpack? And I was like, all right. Put it on. I'm like, what do you got? Rocks in here? And I open it up. There's rocks in there.
Yeah, I pick up rocks. My kids do too.
Yeah.
Find like a nice cool rock. We got like a whole little collection of them. I used to have like fish tanks, and I used to always find like intricate rocks out on trails and stuff. Put them in the fish tank.
Yeah, we got some really nice uh quartz out here and then rose quartz. So
Yeah,
we'll
never looked into the different types, but yeah, there's so many different ones. You can learn a little bit more about the
yeah,
geography in the area, about the types of rocks.
yeah.
And
But like I was saying, so like or like you were saying, you're married to that mold because I have a little banana walking bait that I made and kind of similar to the one that you got, and it has like the little says buyer lure co on it as a little sticker, and
mhm.
it's kind of a sweet bait. But
It's a
I
good
want,
profile. That little that little curve.
yeah, it's like perfect for a walking bait,
Yeah,
and
this is like one that I made, like a little
mm-hmm,
surface walker, but it's got kind of like that little curve. Got kind of like a little V bottom, so it cuts.
oh
I
that's
love
cool.
this bait. I've
Yeah,
almost
that
lost this
thing's
one a couple of times. I've only made a couple of them, but hang on to that.
yeah, that one
Yeah, the
looks sweet.
profile of the bait will definitely influence the action with the surface walkers,
Mm-hmm.
as compared to like the old like Zara spooks, where it's just like a little tube.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of curve makes a big difference. Um,
Yeah, and one of the things that I was worried about because I got like a little stem on it, and I was worried about that interfering with the walking. But with how it sits, it doesn't interfere at all. But I have that mold. I'm kind of married to that mold right now, and it kind of sucks. So I want to redo that mold just to make it easier on myself. Like do some modifications, but like make it easier on myself to put in hardware and weighting and
oh yeah,
sprue holes, all that other stuff.
so you don't have to like drill holes in, so it's all kind of preset. Like get all your hardware molded in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never got to that point. I did make a couple of molds like that with one of those lure building kits I got online from like lurebuild.com or whatever. And but never got to a point to where I had a lot of resources and great people that were willing to share information. But like I said, with my shop and everything, I just never got into the resin because I didn't have the space or the circulation and the filtration and all. But that'll save you some time, particularly if you want to do like production, do some small batch stuff because the wood baits just take forever.
Mm. Do you do you run into any issues where you make a bait and you're out there testing and tuning where one's just completely different than the other?
Oh yeah, all the time. When I was doing those mullets for Kevin, I think we made like 10 or 12 of them with the first batch, and I had to do so much tuning because I made everything like the spec, and I weighted out the lead and everything. But every piece of wood, even within a single board, the buoyancy can change a little bit, and so I was constantly having to like drill some extra little holes, pour some little extra lead here and there, and it just took forever. You make one, it swims good, it's like fine. You make another one, it still swims good, but it swims differently. You make a third one, and that one swims different. And out of a batch of 10, you might have two that swim like exactly like you want, and the others you have to tune. As compared to like with resin, it's like ingredients. It's like putting together chemistry. Like you just everything can be precise, and you can get it spot on with every cast you do, every mold you do.
Yeah, exactly. I know some people say that about like the older Roman made mothers. I think they CNC them now, but the older
Hmm.
Roman made mothers, like no two that you would get would swim would swim like each other, and so people would
Hmm.
buy and trade
Why do you
them, and
want to get bait?
He sees
it
the
would
big rat.
they'd buy and trade and sell them until they got the ones that they
Yeah,
wanted.
I'm sure you've seen Nate Marling Bates.
Hmm.
He took one and like bandsawed it down the middle so you can kind of get an idea of the hardware. And there'll be all these like little lead inserts in all these different
Why this
places.
bait?
And so they had a whole little system to get them, fine tuned, little false pores, holes and things like that. So yeah, with the wood baits, I don't have any of my templates, but basically what I would do is just kind of draw little lines on like a template.
Why is these bait?
Yeah, they got hooks over there, buddy. He'll come back this way. I want you to get hooked. I'll show you them in a little bit. You go eat some more pizza. Eat some more pizza. Yeah. Go see. Go see mama. Go see mama. I might have to step out in just a second just to get them out. But anyway, I would just draw little lines and then line it up next to the template and then recreate the lines and then try to drill with the drill press exact location and everything. But there's a lot of people doing the wood now, especially with those guys that can see the wood, and so they can get big batches of them. But you still got to go through and drill all the holes for the hardware. You still got to like sand all those little CNC marks down and everything if you want to get it smooth. I guess you don't have to, but it'll
This
make it look
one.
nicer if you smooth them down. I kind of always like to leave some bandsaw marks in it myself. It just kind of showed you that it was handmade.
Hmm.
It wasn't some AI robot making it.
I
So it's the little
love
imperfections,
it.
kind of give it character.
Yeah, exactly.
Brother, go see. He's got a Deadpool thing. Go see. The kids are into Deadpool right now. Yeah. Give me just a second. I'm just gonna go help him get back to mom real quick. Yeah. Sorry about that. They just, they're waiting for dad to come play video games in a little bit. I still gotta cook dinner for myself,
No,
but
you're all good. I won't keep much more of your time.
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's Friday, so it's kind of taking it easy tonight. But yeah, um, yeah, the wood baits, a lot goes into them. But every time you make one, it's like you send off a little piece of you with that
Hmm.
person. If that means anyone, if that means anything for anyone who buys it.
No,
So,
that's like definitely really cool. And there's like some guys doing like some small batch, um,
hmm.
wood baits here and there, just little drops. When you get back into it, what what do you think you're gonna start with? Got any ideas to?
I'll probably get back to basics and start doing poppers again. I really love doing poppers. I don't have any of the small ones. I did do some pelagic type poppers for some people that throw on like jacks. but the small
Oh
ones
yeah,
look
yeah.
exactly like this. Just I got a lathe. I love turning wood on the lathe. Used to do a few bowls and stuff like that, but I'll probably just do poppers because I you can get a bait done in literally just a few minutes.
Mhm.
Sand it. I mean, you got to go back and drill your holes and basically boring the cup for the popper was like the most challenging part. I had a special bit, like a little round bit with like some little grooves in it and hold underneath the drill press. And I built like a little jig that would hold it in a vise, so it had a little bit of movement, but it could hold it snug, so I can move it with my hand while it was underneath the little ball to get the perfect little cup every time. But yeah, I would do that because I could batch out several of them in an afternoon, and you just go through the mill, right? Then you get that, and you seal the wood, and your first time sand it, seal it again, and go cut your holes and all that. And they're quick for painting too. Just put them on a little stick
Mhm.
and clear it too. You can clear like a big batch. Just get some automotive clear. I did a lot of stuff with that UV resin.
Mhm.
I liked it for like doing like quick clears if I'm just making some baits for myself or like some friends and stuff. But they can have potentially problems with the UV clear. So the 2K automotive was good. Gave a nice durable coat. And then the best thing for wood is just doing a two-part epoxy and doing a
Mhm.
couple of coats on it. Put it on the turner, let it turn nice and slow, and do two, three, four coats. If you're doing salt water, I do like 5 or 6 coats just to get a nice thick little glass, edge on there, and that epoxy holds really well. But that's what I would do. Some poppers. I just do poppers for a while, and then maybe get back into some couple wake baits. Maybe probably wouldn't
Mhm.
do any glide anymore. I just took too much time.
Yeah. I'm glad.
Probably why I have stomach issues today from all the stress from making these glide baits.
Well, especially if you're doing something with a taller profile, those just seem like they're a pain in the butt.
Yeah, yeah. If I did them, it would just be more just to get some carving in, just for fun. Or carve, spend my time, carve a good one, and just pour a mold and start getting into molds.
Mhm.
So that's probably where I would go with it if I wanted to do and make and sell them again. I just get into molds like everyone else.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
like to get a mullet though. I don't know if you're familiar with Swim Bait Garage out in the
Mhm.
Midwest. He makes those little hyper shads.
Mhm.
This is a smaller one. He's got a couple different sizes, but I always wanted to kind of use the same concept, just like a straight blank pour, no paint, and do like a mullet profile with these, because then you can fast batch them out, get them out to people, and the profile is everything. A dark one you can get black resin, um, for your darker water, and then for muddy water you can have your white, and you know those are
No,
my
that
thoughts.
yeah, those that would be pretty sweet, especially I don't know with like the saltwater stuff. I guess me personally, I'm not like I don't I'm not in that kind of world right now of saltwater fishing, and so I don't see a ton of like mullet glides. I see like Mike Buka has like some of the bull mullet stuff, but those are swimmers. I don't know. I don't really see a mullet glide out there too
Yeah,
much.
they got a few of them. There's a couple of people on the West Coast. The guy Mike Herman out in South Louisiana, he does a mullet glide, smaller one. I think he calls it like the flat raider, a little thin profile. He does like a ladyfish and different shad and herring patterns, all good, saltwater stuff. But yeah, the big mullet glide. I'm sure other people have done it, but as far as I could tell, like the G5 mullet was like the first one to hit the water in South Florida, at least with the YouTube and everything else. I never saw anything else out there. I'm
Hmm.
sure that guy Dave from Florida Swim Bait, he had some mullets as well.
Yeah, dude.
A
And
handful of people.
then with what you got going on right now, and you're super busy. Like, what does your fishing look like when you have time to go out?
Yeah, actually, I went out this morning. My son, the public school system, they are always having teacher work days, so he was off today. So I stayed home and we went out to one of the lakes. It's been kind of cold. We had a few cold fronts, so I didn't catch anything. But I threw the hyper shad and He just brought his toys out there. But I've caught some fish out of that lake, some couple 3 4 pounders on some glide baits. We got a couple little ones in there. Um, but yeah, I get out maybe a couple times a month now. I
Mm-hmm.
used to try to go out all the time. My old apartment, we lived right in front of a big lake, good 40-acre lake. I used to go do night fishing out there all the time and throw my, my wood rats and, caught hundreds of bass. Nothing monstrous, but, get on numbers. It's really fun. Make for a fun night. You catch like 30 or 40 bass in a night circling this lake. Um, but yeah, at some point, I don't know what the future holds for us here. If we're going to stay here long term, or if we decide to move elsewhere. But fishing will be in the cards, and eventually I'll get back into making some baits once I can have my own dedicated shop again, close proximity, and I'll start doing some poppers. But once I do, man, I'll be sure to send you a few your way for you and your friends and stuff that y'all can try out.
Yeah, that'd be cool. My my buddy lives on Lake Oahe, so I think some poppers for some smallies would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, yeah, poppers. You can catch anything with a popper.
Mm-hmm. Well,
That
it'd be
makes sense.
cool. Yeah, it'll be like really cool too. Like once you get back into it, you can involve your kids with it, and if they want to
Yeah, they
see
know a
how
few
it's done.
things already. Yeah, they've seen me kind of go through the steps. Once they're old enough, eventually they'll let them use the tools and things like that. But if I can get them a little more involved and interested, and they can be like my little workers, I can have a little assembly line. They can help me with hardware and finishing lures and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
On like a good friend of mine, Kyle Bushholz from Throwback Swim Baits.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got Marshall's hat on, beanie
Mm-hmm.
on. But anyway, I remember when he first got started, I was fishing in Florida, and he had contacted me. And a fun story, he sent me like one of his first iteration wake walkers.
Oh yeah, dude. You got the round eye and everything, man.
Yeah, yeah. But nice big rubber tail and everything. But he sent it. He's like, can I count on you? Can you put a big fish on this? And it wasn't this one. It was another one. Fun story about it. It was like a purplish one that had like some color shift paint. It was really cool. And I went out and took it. It was maybe the third time I took it out, and I hooked into like a monstrous bass. And this was after I caught my 10 pounder, and this fish was bigger than that one. And I got it all, hooked it, had double treble hook in it. I felt confident and brought it all the way up to the bank. And of course, there's an alligator making a beeline for it, and I'm fishing on like this little ledge. Normally, I would jump down and grab the bass and throw it back up, but I didn't want to risk it. It was a big fish. I'm sorry, it was a big gator, and so I was throwing mono at this time, like some 40 pound, like big game, and I said, heck, I'm just gonna do it. So I went to go pick it up, and the line snapped, right on the bait and the fish with the water. So I, swim off with it, and I was just so heartbroken. To this day, I've never fully recovered from that fish. But I called Kyle immediately and like explained what happened, and then he just happened to be visiting some family in Florida, like in Sarasota, and he came down and met me, and we fished one night. Just a few nights later, he brought me this one, and we fished. It wasn't a good night. We didn't catch anything, but a couple weeks later, I ended up sticking like a nice 8 pounder on this particular bait, and kind of felt redeemed. And for a while, that was the biggest fish on the throwback. I was pretty proud of that. And you know, eventually Marshall, came along and aligned with Kyle, and he's caught so many big fish on the throwback baits. It's amazing what that dude's doing. I think he's in like Japan right now or something, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was like
All over the place.
has his whole trip to Japan, and um, yeah, going like what with all like the G crack dudes, um, like Alton Jones Jr. and all the
Hmm.
Japanese guys. No, so I'm
Yeah, yeah.
just waiting for the content to come out because he's this tall, lanky white dude running around Japan. I think it'll be fun.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I think he had some issue with YouTube or something like that. So he says, you know what? I'm just gonna take some time away and get some really good content, and then when the channel comes back, it'll be epic. I thought what he was posting before was pretty epic. He had
Mm-hmm.
one little post he put where it was just like some heavy metal music and just like a compilation, like biggest catches and all. I thought that was the coolest thing. I watched that thing like 100 times.
Oh yeah, dude. I wanna get a paddleboard. I don't. I have a, we have a kayak right now, which is really fun to go out on, but um, it's just big. It's heavy. Like loading and
Yeah,
unloading
you get the
it's
inflatable ones. Yeah,
yeah.
you get those inflatable paddle boards, and you can just throw the whole thing in the back of your truck. Nice for traveling. You know, bouncing around, exploring different things.
Well, exactly. Like we were out at uh Grand Tetons National Park, and I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, "This would be really cool if we had paddle boards." And we just did a float, and you know, just we're fishing as we did a float down like the Snake River, and maybe catch some trout and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, man.
One thing that's kind of cool out here though is you can stick trout on like depths 115s, little slide swimmers.
Yeah, there's some lake in like north of Arkansas or some like Snake White River or something like that, or it's supposed to be like the place to go for catching big trout on swim baits and stuff.
Yeah. What is that? I think it's Clickbait Customs. He just stuck a big rainbow trout on one of his new glide baits. It's the WRX or WRK or something. It's more of a trout profile, and it's not super big. It's about, I think it's like 7 inches total with the tail, but
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, he's got some cool stuff. I got a UFO wake painted by him, a crappie wake, clickbait custom. Yeah, he does some cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, heck yeah, dude. I won't keep you from your family anymore. I thought this was a lot of
Yeah, man. I
fun.
hope you got some good stuff. I got a lot, made a lot of stuff and got a lot of good memories from Florida and bait making. But I'm down, but I'm not out. I'll be back at some point.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And just gotta get that shop all figured out.
Definitely.